Hello, friends. This is the Iyah Iyah Perspectives. No drama, no noise. Just clarity and courage. I am your host, Iyah Iyah. Today, we will respond respectfully but truthfully to the recent statements made by former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nigeria, Professor Akinyemi, regarding the U.S. accusations of religious persecutions and potential genocides in Nigeria. Let's get into it. Professor Akinyemi expressed deep concern that Nigeria has been mentioned in the same breath as Israel and labeled with a term as grave as genocide. He described it as unjustified and unfair. But if I may ask, what makes a genocide? The United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide defines genocide not by the number of bodies, but by the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. It is not a term reserved for comparison with Gaza, Bosnia, or Rwanda alone. If any part of Nigeria, one group is being persistently killed, displaced, raped, and erased from their ancestral lands, and the state is either enabling it through silence or failing to act, then the question of genocide is valid. It is not about Israel. It is not about America or Britain. It is about Nigeria. Now let's unpack the points that was made by the erudite professor. He says, and I quote, that it is depressing to see Nigeria accused of genocide. My take, yes, Prof, it is. But what is more depressing is that thousands of people in the Middle Belt and in the parts of the North have been massacred year after year, while the Nigerian government dodges accountability. It is even more depressing that rather than address the root of the killings, we are worried about what the US Congress or Senate Department might say. Number two, he described it as unsavory development in the Middle Belt. Yes, it is unsavory development in the Middle Belt. That they worry him, but they don't amount to genocide. My take, with due respect, sir, who decides what that? Not the political elite in Abuja, not the ones living behind high walls in Ikoyi or Banana Island or Bodilon. It is not about how the government feels. It is about what the victims are living. To those who have lost their families, their homes, their communities, this is genocide. Even if no tribunal has called it that yet, we must listen to what these people are experiencing, not how it is labeled in international law books. The prof says we should take this issue seriously at the level of diplomacy and security to avoid, his words, damage to our international image. Again, prof, image, always the performance, never the pain. Why is it that Nigerian state only moves when visas are threatened or their so-called diplomatic image abroad is being threatened or at risk? Why do we scramble only when Washington frowns, but ignore the thousands crying out in Benue, in Southern Kaduna, in Plateau, in Zamfara, and in Katsina? Let me ask a direct question. Why is the concern always about Nigeria's image abroad and never about the trust it has lost at home? The image that matters is not that of Nigeria or the campaign for a Security Council seat. The image that matters is what a displaced child in Makurdi IDP camp sees when they look at their government. This is not an issue for the Senate of Nigeria versus the US Senate. No, it's not. It is an issue of humanity versus hypocrisy. And it must not be swept into a political chess game. between the legislative and executive class in Nigeria and in the US. We must stop treating systemic violence like it is merely a public relations crisis. It is a crisis of governance. It is a crisis of truth. It is a crisis of soul. Let me be clear here. I acknowledge and respect Professor Akinyemi's decades of service. His voice matters. His intellect is established. But that generation, his generation, should also be taking time to apologize to Nigerians, to apologize to the youth whose parents have been killed and whose present has been stolen by the decisions they made in the 80s and 90s, to apologize to a generation that was handed poverty, corruption, insecurity, a generation that was handed a broken criminal justice system, fraudulent elections, and the police force that brutalizes them. These are not exaggerations, Prof. The world sees them, just like they see the killings, just like they see the silence. Let's not forget, we are not at war with the US. We are not at war with Israel. This is not a diplomatic conflict. This is a moral reckoning, a national mirror being held up to our faces. It was James Baldwin who said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Let us face our reality. Nigeria must face this. So to those worried about cancelled visas, remember the millions in Nigeria wouldn't have addresses anymore. To those worried about United Nations seats, remember the broken benches in refugee camps where children sleep hungry. To those worried about the country's name abroad, remember the names buried under the unmarked graves here at home, in Agatu, in Dogonahawa, in Riom. This is the reality of Nigeria. And this is Iyah Iyah Perspectives. No interlude, no spin, just the truth, straight up. I am your anchor, Iyah Iyah. Until next time, stay aware, stay awake, and never forget that the people come first. If this message resonates with you, please I urge you to like it, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Until next time, I say bye for now.